Okay, telomeres. What are telomeres? So telomeres are at the tip of our chromosomes. So the DNA of every chromosome has end regions consisting of DNA strands coated by a dedicated protective sheath of protein. And telomeres actually look like a shoelace. If you take a shoelace, at the very end of that shoelace is that plastic cap. Now, what the science has discovered is that over time, like that plastic cap, if you will, that are called aglets, those actually start to disintegrate. And then what happens to the shoelaces, right? The ends of the shoelaces get frayed. And that's exactly what's happening to our human body. And that is the reason that we age. So telomeres, which are spelled Telomeres, pronounced telomeres. So they repeat segments of non-coding DNA that live at the end of our chromosomes, like I said. Telomeres, which shorten with each cell division, help determine how fast your cells age and when they die, depending on how quickly they wear down. And there's been an extraordinary discovery from these particular two women's research lab that talk about how the ends of these chromosomes can actually lengthen. And as a result, the aging is a dynamic process that can be accelerated or slowed down. And in some aspects, they can actually be reversed. So to me, this is so fascinating, right, Chris? I mean, for us to know right now that we have the ability to understand how to physiologically change our lifespan is really cool.
It reminds me of things I've heard about how age is, in a sense, still a concept that if we believe in it, then that's why we expire from 80 to 100 years, roughly. And if you don't believe in that and you have a different literal mindset around age, that mindset will extend your age. And the physical thing that seems to happen with that is the telomere caps. But in a way, almost the source of the telomere caps shifting and changing is still the mind, perhaps, still the perception, right, that we have. That maybe
Ah,
that's just an opinion, that's just an idea I always have. But like, are the telomere caps maybe the physical, thing that then transpires, but the original thing was the mentality of like, oh, I can live to 1,000 years old, no problem. I'm just throwing some
that's
ideas.
such a great question. No, that's a great question because I'm going to read something that's really going to talk right about that right now. So
Great.
telomeres, um, they don't simply carry out the command issued by our genetic code. Telomeres, as it turns out, are listening to you. They absorb the instructions you give them. The way you can live, in effect, tell your telomeres to speed up the process of aging and also can be to slow down. And from what? From everything from the foods that we eat to the way we respond to emotional challenges, to the level of stress we have on a daily basis in our lives, to the amount of exercise or not that we have in our lives. So, what we were exposed to as children when we were younger, all of these different things actually do affect. Um, and Chris and I are huge believers in how we think and how we feel are also going to be a direct response of how the telomeres are going to grow or to shorten, okay, quicker. So when cells are tired, they reach a stage called senescence. And they are still alive, but they've stopped dividing permanently. And this is called the Hayflick limit. Hayflick limit. It's a natural limit that human cells have for dividing. And, and there's like a stop switch on these cells that happens to be telomeres that have become critically short. Throughout our bodies, we find that cells that renew, including our immune cells or our bone cells, our liver cells, our skin cells, lots of different cells, our cardiovascular cells, they need to divide over and over to keep our bodies healthy. And renewing our cells includes some types of normal cells that divide, like our immune cells and our immune cells, which are really, really important, obviously, to keep us alive, but which keep dividing even longer. And those critical cells in our body have what we call stem cells, which can divide indefinitely as long as we are healthy. And unlike those cells that are the Hayflick cells, which are the ones that die and they don't reproduce, they have telomeres. So stem cells, if you keep those cells healthy, they have enough telomeres to enable them to keep dividing throughout your entire lifespan. So what does it look like when we have healthy telomeres? Our skin is glowing, right? We have a lot of moisture within our skin. As an example, we can breathe very easily. We're able to take in deep breaths and outward. We have vitality. And so these are some of the ways in which we can look, act, and feel younger, which is a great indicator that our telomeres are healthy and they're growing. So sentient cells, which are the cells that reach the stage where cells no longer divide and reproduce, they can leak a pro-inflammatory substance that make you vulnerable to pain and chronic illness. Eventually, many sentient cells will undergo a prolonged death. And this is where disease happens. So many healthy human cells can divide repeatedly so long as their telomeres remain functional. So I know this is a lot of information, viewer, and if you like what you're hearing, give us a thumbs up here. But this is pretty amazing, right, Chris? I mean, to understand the complexity of our body intelligence and all that we're learning at such a quantum it's beyond actually quantum of our learning curve. We have sped up our understanding that I think our body intelligence is so vastly more even overly complicated than we can even understand. And but what I love is that science is now progressing on a daily basis, the discoveries that are happening. But I find stuff like this to be so important just to hear, so that I can choose to make changes in my mental, emotional body, so that I know that I'm feeding my body or keeping my cells from going into atrophy and actually dying.